Okay. So hello, everyone, and thank you for coming today to Accessibility Office Hours. My name's Catherine Wall, and I'm part of the Disability and Access Services Accessibility and User Experience team. Let's see, we hope to have this recorded and captioned by next week so that you can review it online if you have to duck out or you miss part of it. I wanted to start out by just introducing our team here in User Experience and Accessibility. We have Kathy Cahill, who's the Associate Dean of Accessibility and User Experience. Rich Calagero, who is an accessibility consultant. Jen D, who does assistive technology and accessible course materials. Chris LaRoche, who's a user experience consultant. Kate Quinn, who does assistive technology and accessible course materials. And myself, I do accessibility and user experience. We are hosting these accessibility office hours monthly via Zoom to discuss a different topic in accessibility. Our topic today is captioning with YouTube and Amara. And we are lucky to have Chris Brewer from the Center for Brains, Minds, and Machines here with us today. I should probably share, I have some slides that I should probably share with some of this information on it. Let's see, can everybody see the screen? I need to, there's always a little glitch with this, isn't there?
Make it the slideshow.
Yeah, we need to do the slideshow so that, there we go.
Actually, no, that's the presentation mode. We can see everything now.
Oh, you're seeing everything. Well, that's
try the swap displays button up top.
All right. So I stopped sharing. It's just, you know what, it's sharing the wrong screen. So we want to share this screen. This should work. Now you can see it. Yeah, that's what happens when you have two screens. And you can't figure out which screen you're actually trying to share. So we've settled on monthly topics for the rest of the year for office hours, and they are posted on our website. And I'm going to put in the chat the URLs for the website where you can go and see the topics. If it will let me do that. There we go. Although it only went to one person. All right. All right, I will share that in a minute. But we do have all the topics up on our website. And if you have questions about accessibility, captioning, accessibility questions or issues that come up, you can certainly send them to us at accessibility@mit.edu. We are happy to take your questions and help you with projects. Let's see. And now what I'm going to do is turn this over to Kathy Cahill from our team, who's going to talk a little bit about the NAD agreement and captioning at MIT before we move on to talk with Chris.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So part of the reason we're doing a bunch of these presentations on captioning is, of course, the MIT National Association of the Deaf lawsuit agreement. The final agreement was approved last week on July 21st. So that is the effective date of the agreement. And a lot of key dates that you can see in this slide are based on the effective date of the agreement. So any new video on publicly available MIT websites will need to have captions if it's posted on or after September 19th of this year. On or after October 19th of this year, people who are visiting MIT websites can request that videos be captioned. So there are older videos, ones that were posted prior to January 1st, 2019, that are not part of the agreement, but members of the public do have the ability to request that those be captioned. And there will be an online form on our captioning website that will be live at that point so that people can make these requests. Another detail about that is that every department needs to have an accessibility link on their website that links to that accessibility page. And then by next July 21st, so in a year, July 21st, 2021, any content posted between January 1st of 2019 and September 19th, 2020 will need to be captioned. There's more information on the captioning and accessibility website with those dates, and there is a frequently asked questions section that might answer any questions you have on that. We also have a lot of information on the site about captioning, about ways to get it done. And Chris today has graciously agreed to do a presentation on how to use YouTube, taking YouTube auto captions and using those to create more accurate captions that you can then repost and use. And also Amara, which is a online captioning tool that can be used as well. So we realize that not every department may be using a third-party vendor to get captions done, or there may be situations where there are particular videos that might more easily be done by staff that need a quick turnaround, or they're not very long. And so some of these do-it-yourself tools could be very helpful. So we're really glad to have Chris with us. He's the Director of Technology at the Center for Brains, Minds, and Machines at the McGovern Institute. And thank you, Chris, for being with us today.
Sure thing. Happy to help out.
Chris, just before you start, Chris, yeah. Sorry, I started to interrupt. Just wanted to say, if anyone has any questions that they have of Chris during his presentation, if you just put them in the chat box, and then I will just prompt Chris at that point, just because I don't want to, I know you want to take questions as they come, but I don't want to interrupt your flow too much. So if anybody does have any, we'll also have time for Q&A and all that after. But if anybody has a question at a specific point, just put it in the chat box and then I'll prompt Chris.
Sounds good. Awesome. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, everybody see that all right? And of course, now your pictures disappear, so I'm going to assume you do. Oh, you're over on that screen. All right, but definitely do interrupt me with anything if you do have, and Chris will help out with that. You can raise your hand if it's just easier to ask in person. Chris, if you don't mind, keep an eye on that. Sometimes it's easier to talk than to type. I'm happy to field those questions too. Okay, so to start, I'm going to assume you all know how to use YouTube or could pick it up pretty easily. If you haven't used YouTube before or a similar platform, they're not too hard. They guide you through everything these days. And if anything, it's probably too easy. And with that, I would say too easy in the sense that since we're all communications folks at MIT or doing things that are going out to the public, make sure it is something that you want to have out there to the public, showing the best face, and don't just become some of those TikTok video people. But that's just my own personal rant. All right, so when you are in your video channel, so I'm logged into YouTube in our account, and I've gone into our YouTube studio, which brings us to this view. I'm in my videos, and I can see all of my videos here. Now, personally, we use, at CPMM, we use 3Play Media. I'm not going to be talking about that today, but if people do have questions on that, I'm more than happy to answer them later on, or feel free to connect with me at another point. But for example, let me just check. Yeah, computational. So this one has not been finished yet on YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and go in, and we'll use this as an example of one that does not have formal captions, but it does have automatic captions from YouTube. So I'm going to go in and edit the details of it. And over here, you have all of your options for your video, as well as on the main screen, but we're going to go down to subtitles. So you might hear the term subtitles, or you might hear the term captions. They're related. They are technically a little bit different. So really what we're doing are what we're really doing are captions, which you can turn on and off at any time. Okay, so if you notice, there are some automatic English captions that have been created already. So with these, we can go in and edit them. So over on the right side, we can click on it and say edit. Or sorry, that's if you want to go to the Classic Studio, just click on it in general to get to them. And here we have the video itself. Okay, so as you can see in here, you can do some actions such as downloading in a format. So if it's easier for you to do this on a normal word processor, although these will be time coded, that's part of the coding of them, but you will overall see the text itself. So for example, in SRT, you'll see the time code associated with it, which is very important because that tells it when to have that line of text pop up. So if you do download these, edit them, and put them back up, make sure you keep those time codes consistent with what the video part is itself. That's where using these systems can make it a lot easier because they can do the time coding for you, especially with Amara. So, but with YouTube, they're kind of already set. So what we can do is we can edit this. And this will take us into a live view. Now you can see we can actually go in and edit things. So what you would do on these is listen to them and then check to see if it's correct and see if anything needs to be corrected itself. Okay, so they even try to do kind of blocks here, and you can even change the amount of time of where they show up. So if you find it's more appropriate to have a different span of time for them, you can do that. So let's start and let's see how this one sounds.
I want to talk about a computation explanation for domain specificity in the human wish system.
Cool. And can you all hear my audio? I can't remember if I have to share that. You hear it? Great. Okay. So for example, here we have Katerina doing a talk. So far, the first two lines are pretty good, which is kind of impressive. I do find with these when I don't use this regularly because we use another system, but especially the more scientific words or folks who have heavier accents, it can be a lot harder for them. And of course, if it's bad audio recording quality, you'll tend to see the quality of matching go down quite a lot. So let's see if we can find a part where where they actually didn't get it correct.
Let's start with the problem. What is the problem that Vision needs to solve?
So if anybody has noticed so far, one thing that is missing from these, we don't know who is speaking. It hasn't told us that. There is no punctuation at all. It's just one giant run-on with very little capitalization, except for like in the word I. So this is some places where we could go in and correct it already, because to have proper captions, you do want to have all the explanatory information that goes along with it as well. So for example, to start, I would go in here and I'd put Katerina Dobbs, and then that way we know that she is speaking here, right? You can also use these if there was like music playing or other things that are not visible. It's good to do those descriptor words in here too. So then, you know, for me, it's probably gonna be a little bit easier to just go through and read this as a sentence and do punctuation that way. So let's see, I want to talk about a computation explanation for domain specificity in the human official system. And I'm not the best with grammar, but I'm gonna throw a comment in because that feels right to me. So let's start with the problem. What is the problem? Well, so let's start with the problem. I don't know. What is the problem? You know, so basically, oh, what is the, I'm probably messing this up. But anyway, you all with English degrees will do a much better job than I will. So what is the problem that which needs to solve? And so from a brief glimpse of this complex scene here, and oh, complex scene. So here's a catch, right? It's probably seen like that, right? Because she's talking about this picture, this scene here. So you do have to be careful of some of those because it will very often go to a more simplified word that sounds the exact same. So seen and seen, whether something has been seen or you're talking about a visual scene, right? So you have to catch all those sorts of things. So blah, 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 you'd go in, scene here. I'm gonna say that this is the end of the sentence and then we'll go in and capitalize this one, right? So hopefully you get a sense. You really want to go through these and make sure that it's grammatically correct. You don't really want to change their words. If you do want to type it. It's just like if somebody misquotes something in the paper and the paper corrects it, right? You do want to let people know that it has been changed and this is not what they've actually said. But overall, I think it's better to leave it as it is, what they do actually say. You can always address it later on, but this way they're getting the true factual thing that did actually occur. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question,
yeah.
Chris. Sorry, somebody had a question a couple minutes ago. I didn't want to interrupt, but it's Nancy's asking, how do you get the initial imperfect captioning before editing? Is that automatic now? Nancy, if you want to bring that up, or Chris, if you know the answer to that.
Yeah, so it is, I believe there is a setting in your YouTube account whether to have those. I think you have to opt out of it actually. I believe they do them automatically by default. I believe the more, this is kind of a hunch of mine, the more traffic you get to your site, kind of the more priority you get. When we first started our YouTube channel, they were also not doing that many automatic captioning, but we weren't really getting those for a few days. But now we have found that since we have, I don't know what we're up to, like 15 or 20,000 subscribers, I don't know, over 10,000. Now we do get them much more quickly. I'm sure they've also advanced their technology as well. But there is a setting, or there was last time I looked, to opt in or opt out of the auto captioning. So if yours are not doing that automatically, it's not going to be instantaneous, of course. Sometimes it will take a few days, especially for the longer videos. Definitely check in your settings. If you can't find it, shoot me an email and I'll try to help you dig it up too.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions at the moment?
No, that's all.
Okay, great. So hopefully you get a sense here. It's pretty easy to go through this, right? And you can add to it. I like adjusting the time here because you can actually see and hear it with the red line. If you're able to see this, if you aren't able to see the red line, look for the triangle and the vertical line tied together. So I find that makes it a lot easier to tell when these words come up. So you would want to go back after you've corrected the text and align it. So then we can go back.
Explanation for domain specificity in the human revision system.
Right. So far, it's doing a pretty good job.
So let's start with the problem. What is the problem that revision needs to solve? And so from a brief glimpse of this complex scene here.
Right. And they actually, scene here. So you're not seeing quite all these. This is one thing I really wish that they would allow you to make this window bigger. That's one of my gripes. So you could actually see all this because they are actually leaving off some of the text that's here from here. So, but you do at least get to see the beginning word, which is the most important.
And seamlessly, effortlessly recognize people and objects and the relationship to each other and the. Right.
So it does give you a sense, are these lined up correctly? If you do need to shift them, you know, if you've ended up having to add or change words or something, I find it easiest to just move them around with these sliders. Now, if you notice, if you leave a gap, there won't be anything during that gap. Okay, so be aware of that.
And
that's one way that you can make, you know, blank space. But if there shouldn't be a gap, make sure that your lines go together. All right. You can also add in new lines using this when you hover over the space. If there should be something in between here and they just totally missed it for some reason, you can hit the plus. You used to be able to hit the plus. All right, well, it doesn't want to do it right now, but normally you would hit the plus, it would add a new box in here, and then the X would allow you to delete one of these boxes as well. All right, so could just be my browser at this time. Some browsers, with all these web sorts of things, some browsers work better than others. So when in doubt, if you're running into trouble, try it on another browser. I mostly use Firefox myself. Chrome might be a little more stable, especially because Google owns YouTube, so I'm sure they make it so it all works perfectly. So cool. So go through these, and basically you're doing this whole process and you're going through the entire thing here. All right. So you can also type a subtitle up top here, right? And then put your playhead where you want it to appear, and then hit the plus, and it will pop it into that spot there, right? So the plus should allow you to do the same thing here, but when in doubt, you can always do it from the top. And once again, if you don't need this, hit the X, so at least you can kind of see that working that way. All right. And then if you do remove something, check to see if there's a gap that you do not want. Okay. So one nice little feature is, depending on how fast of a typer you are, listener and a typer, you can pause the video when typing, turning that on and off with this here. Okay.
Chris, sorry, someone just asked, can you show that again, how to add something?
Sure.
Could you repeat that?
So if you want to add a new text box that hasn't been there already, I'm calling these text boxes. So a new chunk of text that was totally left out for some reason or another. Perhaps it was really terrible audio quality, so they just didn't even caption it, or they might just say like inaudible. What you'd want to do is you'd want to put your playhead, so this vertical line with the triangle, where you want it to appear. So if I wanted it, maybe right here in the middle of this, or I'm going to put it in between these two. We'll pretend it's going right in between these two. You can also see the associated red line here, which personally I wish they would use better markers or colors, because if you're colorblind, you're going to have a really hard time seeing these. So look for the vertical line if you do happen to be colorblind, and the triangle with the vertical line, okay? But once that's aligned, that's where it will show up, and then you can type in what you want, right? And do your punctuation and everything. And then when you hit the plus sign, you'll now see it will show up where we have this at, right? So there it is. We were at 26 seconds. It's popped it in between. If it does need to be longer or shorter, duration-wise, you can just drag this around to do that sort of thing. And once again, I'm going to just delete this one so you can see how it's deleted, and so I don't mess up this auto captioning, which really won't matter once we get the full captions completed anyway. All right. Any other questions at the moment?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So hopefully this gives you a quick sense of how you can actually go through YouTube and edit it. It's really just the same process over and over and over again. If you have short videos, it's much less painful. If you have longer videos, get comfortable, get something that keeps you awake. If you're a coffee drinker or something, set the kettle going so you can stay awake and try to do the whole thing accurately. The nice part is you can always save these. If you notice, all saves or all changes are saved in drafts, which is great. So you don't have to do this all in one sitting. You can always come back and do it later on. So if it was finished, so I believe everything I've done so far is at least not terrible. So for these public ones, this is in the process of getting captioned formally anyway. But in the meantime, we can publish our edit. So I'm going to show you that process. There are other things in here that are worth looking at, like the keyboard shortcuts can be pretty handy. If you're doing this quite a lot, I recommend using them. It'll make you much more efficient if you're a type of person, instead of as you've been seeing me, having to click on the play and pause and everything. All right. And they have more help in here as well. So, and as always, if anybody needs any help, I'm happy to help out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and publish. If you found what you did was just terrible, you can always delete your draft. But hopefully you're having a good day and typing away nice and accurately. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And now it's letting us know subtitle is published, and it's the automatic one. You can also unpublish one. So such as, I don't know where this other one came from, so I'm going to unpublish that one. Oh, actually, that's the one that I made. Sorry. We'll publish it again. It's the automatic one that we can unpublish, but you get the idea. You can choose which one shows up and which one does not. All right. Now, if you start with one of these and you want to just get this going while you're getting a more formal one done, or for some reason like that, you can always add in additional ones this way. So, or allow other people to add them for you. That's a little more complicated. You have to get into permissioning in your YouTube account and things like that. But you can do those sorts of things. All right. But you can add your own SRT files, for example. So I selected English, United States, assuming that's what this would be. And then we can upload a file here. Or if you only have a transcription, so uploading a file would be something like an SRT, which is time code matched with each line. Transcribe and auto-sync, that would be if somebody is just simply doing a pure transcription of it. They're just listening and typing with no time coding. It will actually go in and try to do some alignment for you. I would recommend after you do that, go back and watch it, make sure it does work all right. Or create a new one would be creating a new one from scratch, kind of like what we were seeing here. So sometimes if you find the YouTube is just so bad on a video, it might be easier to start from scratch instead of having to go in and constantly correct what they've done. All right. So it's a wide range. Of course, these are all automated, so it's only as good as automation, which luckily is getting better for us. All right. Any questions on YouTube at the moment? And if not, then I'll hop over to Amara.
Chris, we have Lori Bryce just asking, if just the auto captioning by YouTube isn't enough to meet the settlement requirements, what editing is needed to meet those requirements?
Mm-hmm. So those are some of the things like what I was showing where you want to put in the speaker. right? People need to know who is talking. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen because that's where the pictures are. So you need to know who's speaking. Other audible cues that the audience couldn't pick up on, such as music playing, applause, laughter, cheer, those sorts of things, put them into square brackets. So really you want to complete the full experience that somebody sitting there who is not hearing impaired would be able to enjoy. As you notice with the YouTube captions, the biggest issue is punctuation and grammar. So in terms of grammar, in terms of punctuation. So most things are not capitalized, that should be. There's no punctuation at all. So folks who are using like a screen reader to read it to them, for example, it would just be one giant run-on sentence and much harder to understand than having the proper pausing with that punctuation would allow for screen readers and things like that. So those tend to be the biggest things, but also the accuracy of YouTube compared to other platforms is just not as great. I can't remember the actual numbers. I want to guess it's like 80 to 85%, which just does not cut it for the settlement agreement. So that's why you do want to go through and you do want to correct things. I mean, we even saw in the first 1 or 2 lines of this video from ours, and Katerina's, a pretty clear speaker and hasn't even gotten into the scientific speak. There were already no punctuation, and there were already some incorrect words, such as seen, S-E-E-N versus seen, S-C-E-N-E. So those sorts of things. So, and definitely Kathy, Catherine, Chris, anybody else, if I'm missing anything on those, definitely do chime in as well.
I think you've covered the big ones, Chris.
Yeah,
thanks.
Great synopsis.
All right. Anything else for YouTube, or should we hop over to Amara?
I think we seem to have, I think we can go on to Amara.
Sounds good. All right, so let's do that. So here's Amara. Amara is free, and you can just access it through amara.org. You will need to sign up for an account. There are some, I believe there's some paid accounts. I've only ever used their their free account. So the main difference that I've seen is free accounts, your video has to be made public to the Amara community. But I figure the videos that I'm doing anyway are public videos. So public is public, so it doesn't matter to me. And free is always good, right? So I've signed up, I've signed in. If you haven't signed up or signed in, you'd normally see it here. But I'm gonna go to my dashboard now that I'm logged in. And inside of here, you'll see your normal stuff as always. And then, let's see, I need to get to my videos, which normally when you log in, it takes you straight there. So I don't know where I ended up there. But anyway, now I'm at my videos here. So you can also see all videos. So if you really want to get good at captioning, you can go into other public videos and help other people out too. So if you like listening and typing, help out some folks. Otherwise, your videos, these will be the ones that you've linked and or uploaded to it. Sorry, I shouldn't say uploaded. You can't actually directly upload to Amara. You can only link to them. So for example, these are ones from YouTube where I just copied and pasted the URL in here. I did want to show you another method so that we can go through a full thing. So for example, this is an MP4. I uploaded, it's just like a little 12-second segment from one of our videos, one of our release videos that we've already put out there. So this is the raw MP4 file. So if you want to do that, and especially if you don't want something to be fully public yet, you can do it this method. So you would have to have I think the pro account or something to not have it public, but then you can add a video, put in the video URL. So once again, Amara does not host the videos. They can pull from anything that is hosted, whether it's Vimeo, YouTube, or the specific file formats. All right. Now I'm going to choose the language, English, and we're going to add this to Amara Public. Once again, I have the public account, which is why that's happening. And here we have this video with Jim DiCarlo from one of our talks. So this gives you the basic setup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up our languages to start subtitling. And the first one I'm going to do is English. And to be honest, I'm probably only going to do English on this one. But you could have, since it's in the public, other people could come in and caption this for other languages too. All right, so now that we have it set there, we're going to add and edit subtitles. So we're going to add them. Personally, I find this a little redundant. We're going to add English ones. And there we go. And now this brings us into this console, which is where you actually do the captioning itself. So they've got their keyboard shortcuts up top here. They've also got some nice guidelines, which are great to, if you're, until you get used to this, I recommend going in and review this every time before you do it as a nice little refresher of what should I be doing. And they've got even more advanced stuff too. But these top ones kind of cover those things that we were saying before as well. All right. So before he even speaks, I know that this is going to be Jim DiCarlo, so I'm going to get that part out of the way. And then I'm going to use my keyboard shortcuts here to do some of these. So I'm going to hit Tab to play and pause.
So what's most exciting to me?
So what's most exciting to me, and I chose 12 seconds so that you won't have to see me doing this very long.
About this study.
So I'm going to consider that about as long as I want to go for this one. All right. So now that we have these, we can go on and add a new subtitle, right? So here we have our first line. I'll hit Tab. Let's do the next one.
Is not just saying that recurrence is important, but
and hopefully this is thrilling for you all to watch.
And we're comparing models
and I'm almost done.
On an image by image basis with what's going on in the primate.
And the nice part, if you're doing your own videos, that means you probably listened to it way too many times. You probably know what they're going to say anyway. Great. Okay, so now we've got those, right? And it's given us basic stuff here. So let's go back and watch it, and let's see how the timing is.
So what's most exciting to me?
Oops. Oh, sorry. I forgot one very important step. Once you finish typing these up, we need to sync it. All right? So as they tell you over here, type what you hear. Is all the content subtitled? Yes, start syncing. So let's do that. So now we can watch it and line it up.
So what's most exciting to me about this study?
Right, so that one shows up there. Come on.
Is not just saying that recurrence is important, but that we're.
So, and I already noticed I didn't type it quite right, so I'll need to go back and fix that one.
Pairing models on an image by image basis with what's going on in the primate range.
Come on, come back. There we go. Okay, so now with that, I'm going to review the whole thing.
So what's most exciting to me about this study is not just saying that recurrence is important, but that we are comparing models on an image by image basis with what's going on in the primate range.
Cool.
So
you've probably seen the typo that I would need to go in and correct itself, right? I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to bore you all too much yet. There's one little gap. I'm going to just fill that in so there's no blank space. And then basically they follow you through, or they lead you through the rest of the process of review this. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to fix that one. This isn't going fully public. Anybody have any questions so far about this? Hopefully you see it's overall pretty easy, and they do guide you through it. Sometimes I always want to click more than you actually need to, but they do, for this time syncing, they do pop that in there as soon as you're done with the first one, aligning that one. Okay. Chris, did you have something? Or from someone?
No, I haven't heard any questions right now. So if anyone has any questions, feel free.
Great. And while you are thinking of your questions, if you do have any, just to finish this off, I'm going to start the review. So once again, go through, watch it, make sure everything looks good. Assuming everything was perfect, I would go ahead and hit publish. And now we have these captions on this, right? So completed captions, and you could watch it one more time just to make sure everything looks good. But the important thing is this is just here on Amara, right? So what we need to do next is download the file. So choose what language that you captioned it in, choose which format. I usually recommend SRT. They tend to be the most common format across the platforms. So then I could download this. I'd have my SRT file. And you know what? I just want to show you what an SRT looks like. Where is brackets? Just to give you a sense. So if you did ever want to edit one of these files on your own, it's not too daunting, but you do want to make sure. So basically, this is your time code, right? And they go into seconds, and these are frames afterwards, or milliseconds. So you have your time code, so the number of your caption, the time code in which it goes, and then the actual caption itself, okay? So one annoying thing about editing these manually is if you do have to insert something in here. So if I wanted to put a line in here, then now that this is 3, I now need to update all the others to make sure they're chronological. So that's the proper coding. It might still work, but you do want to do that to be appropriate with these and maintain your coding. All right.
Chris, we just had a slew of questions come in right after that.
Cool.
Do you recommend 2 lines of caption instead of 1? That's the first question. Yes or no?
I think it depends on how fast they're speaking,
Okay.
and I would just use your best judgment.
Okay.
I don't think you want it to go very long. Like, be careful of the width on the page that it goes, because a much longer line is going to be much harder to read for somebody. But if they're speaking pretty quickly, you might have to do 2 lines to get enough text in there during their talk. If they're more of a slow talker, I think 1 line, because you're paying attention to the amount of time that it's up there. You want it to be legible and easy enough paced. Of course, you don't have as much control since we're just putting in the text and we're not the ones actually speaking or editing the actual video itself. So I don't know if there are any official guidelines, but personally, I don't like to see them too long.
Well, there's a couple other follow-ups to that. Then someone asks, is there a recommended caption length? And one person says, do try to follow the 42 character guidelines, especially if people are speaking quickly. It can be it can be difficult for a deaf person to follow if there's too much text on the screen. And I didn't know if you had any comments on that.
I would agree with that. I mean, I don't think we've gone over 42 here. I think this is just about as long as I like. And once again, if they're a fast talker, it makes it a lot trickier trying to get everything in there. But then I would definitely, like Jim was speaking at a reasonable space here. It's nice when you get to direct them and you're like, slow down there, killer. You're doing a great job. So when you can actually make your own videos, you have a lot more control. In lectures, you know, when some of the scientists get really excited, it's hard to constrain that excitement, and they just, you know, it's coming out full force. So do your best. I think use your best judgment too. I probably wouldn't go any longer than this. Different platforms will also show captions in different methods. So if it is too long, it might run off the side of the player, or if the player itself is pretty small on the page. It all depends on the quality of their player too and how they've programmed it. Some will auto wrap if needed, some won't. So I think take a look at what your platforms are, where you're posting them, what size you are. But overall, I don't think you'd really want to go much longer than this per line. So if in this same space of time he had more that he was saying, I would definitely go to 2 lines, sometimes even 3, and try it. I think one of the best things is try it out. Personally, I'm more of a slow reader. So I like to go through and read things and make sure I can still read it and make sure you're not having to, you know, give yourself whiplash going back and forth really quickly. So hopefully some of that helps.
Okay, and we have another question here about says that Amara seems like more work. Sorry, I had it here. So Amara seems like more work than starting with the imperfect YouTube captions. Is Amara better in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all depends on the video. So for example, the one that we just looked at on YouTube of Katerina's, so far it was doing a pretty decent job, right? But I think I would probably actually do a better job personally by doing it from scratch in Amara. So you have to go in and look and see how good that YouTube auto caption is. Some of them are terrible. They're actually, if you want to get some good laughs, go take a look on YouTube itself at poor auto captioning. Right? Just search for that and you can see how some of these things are just really bad. It's like autocorrection on our phones, right? It has people saying things that they really weren't saying. So it depends on, are you better and faster at correcting mistakes that are there, or are you faster typing from scratch? So I think it depends on your length of video and everything, and your personal work style. So either can be better, depending on what you're doing and what you prefer. So I know that's kind of a gray answer, but I think it all does just depend.
Okay, the other question we have is, what do you do if your speaker garbles their words and you cannot make out a word or two from what they are saying?
Yeah, and this happens a lot. Actually, so I just want to show you, so this is in 3Play, this is who we use. One nice thing about 3Play is they actually flag things that they know they didn't get right. They might still get us, but you still have to go in and correct them. But let me just show you one of these because I'm sure we're going to see it, especially one with like high numbers. So for example, a lot of times, oops, sorry, I'm in your face. A lot of times you'll just see this, and this is what I recommend. So can you all see that okay? It's square brackets and it says inaudible, right? Let people know, look, they said something, I don't know what it is. I'm sorry, you know, we did our best, but just know they did say something, but we really don't know what it is. So inaudible is a great one for that. So a lot of times, like audience questions, you're going to get a lot of those, especially if you don't have a mic set up for your audience. You know, you might just happen to capture it through their lavalier mic, but it's terrible. You have no idea what they're saying. You might capture a few words. So like, for example, what they did here, an audience is asking a question, but it doesn't, and right? We have no idea what they said. I've kind of driven myself crazy when I first started doing this because I wanted to correct every single one of these, and I would listen to the clip like 50 times. And after the 50th time, I was like, I really still have no idea. So, you know, don't go crazy on these. There's going to be a lot of them, but inaudible is a great way to do that. It lets people know there was something said, but we really, you know, we're sorry. We have no idea what they said. And chances are people in the audience might not have either. So, so I think that's a good way to correct that.
Related to that, there's another question here too. Is there a guide or glossary of terms to use when deciding to include additional audio information in a caption? Where do I add, for example, a faint siren sound in the street, a loud click of the on switch, a cough, etc.?
Yeah, so I don't know the formal official terms. I have a feeling some of the accessibility folks might know this. What I tend to do, I don't think you need to capture everything, right? You need to capture the general experience. So, you know, was the faint siren in the street, was that part of the video? If you were creating a more of a visual video and that's important to the storyline, yes, I would put that in there. If this was a lecture from a MIT lecture hall and that happened to be happening in the background, is it important to the lecture? Does it really add anything to it? If anything, it really detracts from the lecture. Not that I'm saying you should go in and edit out things that detract from lectures, but it's not something that was an add to it and it wasn't intentional, it wasn't part of it. So I would probably leave out, you know, faint siren in the background, but, you know, audience applause. That's really important. If people need to know that people like this, they were clapping. Booing, you know, if somebody told a bad joke. I'm sure, you know, if I ever did stand up, I would have a lot of booing in my captions, right? So I think really do the important things that add to that full experience of what was happening in the space, and things that were not meant to be part of it that were in there. If you're doing full descriptive audio text, that's another story. But that's a different level and a thing that we're not quite covering today. So if you do want to know more about those things, definitely look up like audio descriptions, because that's more of when a voice will speak. And so if somebody's visually impaired, they can't read the text, descriptive audio would actually tell them, think of it like your own personal narrator of everything that's going on.
Can I just interrupt for a second? I just wanted to say that there are some guidelines available from Captioning Key. And I put the link in the chat, but I'll enter it again. Just some guidelines for captioning educational videos, and they answer some of these questions.
And Chris, do you filter out filler words?
No, because the people spoke them. You know,
okay.
Otherwise you're starting to do censorship. So really, I mean, if there are filler words or things that the speaker asked to have removed, what you should do is you take the video down, edit the video, so that it only contains what you know, you and or the speaker want to have in it, and then caption that. But I don't believe you should censor it, basically, is what would be happening at that point.
Okay, and one more question before we can go on here is, what is the rule on numbers and equations? Do you type in with the word 1 + 1 = 2, or use the number 1 with the character plus number 1, the equals equation to the number 2? Or is there a standard or not?
To be honest, I don't know if there's a standard or not. I've seen it both ways. Personally, if it's like math, I like to see it in the actual math form. I think it's a lot easier to read, as well as it also brings across the notion that they are talking math, right? So I think if they spelled out the text words of 1 + 1 = 2, you're not going to get the same effect as if you see the numeral 1, the plus symbol, numeral 1 equal symbol, right? So if you know, I think personally the captioning, what you're trying to do is to give folks the most representative feel of if they could be there, you know, or if they could hear it, you know, all those sorts of things. So whatever you can do to help that to be possible, you know, you do want to be true to what people said. Once again, you don't want to make things up. You don't want to censor things. But whatever makes it easiest to digest and most representative of what's happening, personally, that's what I go for. And once again, accessibility folks, definitely smack me down if I'm saying something wrong.
Now, Kathy just submitted some, just linked in some more about information on captioning keys and numbers. So
cool. Awesome.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? I think that's all for now, Chris. I don't know if you have anything else you want to continue. We had a slew there, but I think
cool.
That's
I mean, that's kind of the quick and dirty. I think the very last thing that I don't know if I quite finished, when you download your SRT files, then you can go back. I showed you what it looked like, but then you can go back into YouTube and you can upload the SRT files here, right? So I'm not going to do it to this video because it's the wrong text. But let's say we did add it to this video. What you want to do after that, so we can add that text and everything, right? Then what I usually do is I go in, I delete the other versions that are there because they might be an auto version. You know, for example, we started with an automatic. We edited one, so it gave us another one, English, right? But the automatic is still there. So then I would go in and I'd actually delete this one so that people can't see it accidentally. When there are multiple transcripts in there, people have the choice of which, or multiple caption files, people have the choice of going in and choosing which caption file they want. That's there particularly for if there are multiple languages, right? If there's English, Spanish, French, you know, you can choose which one you want to read. But at the same time, if you leave the automatic, you just upload a new one, somebody could choose the automatic. And if you don't remember to set the one that you've added as the default one, that could pop up by default, and all that hard work you did is for naught, because most people don't know about changing the caption file. Does that make sense?
Yes. And there's just several thank yous coming in for all this information.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, happy to help. And if, I mean, these are free options. If you do have any budgeting, I would recommend, you know, and especially if you're doing long form stuff, it can take a lot of time, as you see here. Quick videos, you know, you can crank out a 5-minute video once you get good at this in like a half hour, right? But if these are hour-long lectures and you're doing 1 or 2 a week, that's going to be a full-time job for you. So if you do end up using services, there are some that are better than others for particular things. And I know there have been a lot of chats on campus of suggestions of what people use. So don't hesitate to reach out to, you know, me, the accessibility folks, other common people who have been doing captioning for a while and everything. If you are using some of the ones that are on campus or that are campus recommended, such as 3Play, for example, make sure you do get, if you're signing up for a new account, make sure you do get the MIT rate. We get a much greater discounted rate than the standard public accounts. So do check to see if they do have MIT accounts or MIT rates as well. I do have to, it's just because I love this. I think it's a great feature. I have to just show one thing. Feel free to disconnect if you're bored with me already. But we use 3Play, and one of the reasons why I really like them is it makes your videos so much more accessible in terms of anybody in the audience, because you can also do interactive transcripts. This is a plugin generated by 3Play where, and I think this is cool, I have to think about what's a word that he said in here, networks, right? You can search and find any word that they've said, and it will show you the points in the video where that word was said, and you can click on it and it will jump you to the spot in the video and everything. So personally, I think this is great because, you know, you can't really search videos otherwise, right? That technology isn't here yet until this sort of thing. right? So as far as I know, 3Play is the only one that does this. I don't know if others have tried it yet. It does make them more expensive, but personally, I find this a huge plus, so that when people are searching your websites, if you integrate it into it, you can make it so that they can actually search through the text of the videos themselves, right? So they might be much more likely to find and watch a video if it's something an hour long, but they're only interested in 10-minute segment. How many people are going to spend the time scrolling through there, finding what they want? If they can find the words, the keywords, you know, this might help boost your audience and get a lot more information out to people who want just the specific things instead of them getting bored and running away. So that's my shameless plug. I don't have any stock. The guys who wrote the company or created the company did come out of MIT, so you know, it's kind of in the family. A lot of fun stuff, but I think they do a great job, so I don't mind giving them a little plug. Cool. Any other questions or anything else at the moment?
Chris, I just wanted to say, this is Kathy Cahill, that for anyone who's attending, that we're going to be having some sessions where some of the different MIT preferred captioning vendors will be describing what kinds of services they provide. Awesome. And what their rates are and how to become a customer. So I'm going to be sending out emails with those dates and times next week.
Cool. Yeah, I know Rev is another popular one on campus. I think they're about like $1 a minute. The 3Play standard time is like $1.70 per minute. That's our standard rate. Most of these you can pay more for rush jobs as well. So if you need to get something out quickly, because I can't remember what date this goes into effect, but don't forget, you do have to have captions when you release your video once that date hits. So if it's something that you need to get out in a timely fashion, you probably want to go with a service that has like a immediate or like a 2-hour or 24-hour turnaround. So keep those sorts of things in mind.
Chris,
Or
one
get
last
really good at
question.
type.
Chris, someone's asking about 3Play. How are they regarding technical and/or scientific terms?
That's what originally drew us towards 3Play. They have very good scientific dictionaries, and as with most of you all, right, in all of our departments, people use really big words, and they're very difficult words. And we found overall, like the vast majority of massive words that these people are using, they actually capture them pretty well. You do still have to go, I think I saw really quickly on the chat, yeah, Rebecca was saying it's definitely still worthwhile to go through and do a skim on it if you want to make sure everything's perfect. And one thing I do like about 3Play, I haven't checked on other ones yet, but is their flags. These are places where they know they've messed up. So it does give you a place to go in and, you know, a place to start to get this even better. Because, you know, what I like about this is everybody makes mistakes and they're willing to admit their mistakes. So it helps you out and it helps you find them. So I think that's one great thing. So, you know, you can look for all of your flags in here. They pop up easily and you can try to correct them, right? And most of these platforms, once again, very similar setups to like what we were seeing in Amara and YouTube. You can go in and correct them as well. And they help you out with those.
Very good. Well, thank you. I think that's it for the questions for right now.
Awesome. Yeah. If anybody does have anything, you know, feel free to, if you want to even just shoot me an email directly. I'm just Brew, B-R-E-W at MIT. So happy to help out.
Okay. I think that's it. We're right at an hour. Thank you all for coming. And as I said, check out our website for future open office hours on accessibility. And thank you to Chris so much for presenting all of this to us today.
Happy to help. Yeah. And good to see everybody, virtually at least.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.